Welcome to Spindle and Spoon Homestead, your place for homesteading and hand spinning. Today, this video is about laundry and homemaking and bedding, and I also have a recipe to share for homemade laundry detergent that is about half the price of your typical laundry detergent in the store. I'm going to be sharing some quotes and ideas from this book, Home Comforts, The Art and Science of Keeping House. And there's a little quote on the side that says, "Home comforts is to the house what joy of cooking is to food." So if you're a fan of joy of cooking, you might understand this book. It's a very thorough discussion of homemaking and keeping house, the why and the how. So one of the things that this book says is that while you're sleeping, your body is kind of like exuding moisture from sweat, bodily oils, your breath, and the moisture gets into your bedding, and so that every morning you should not immediately make your bed, but you should turn down all of your covers so that the bed can air out just for like, I don't know, half hour to an hour. And then you should also crack open a window and let in some fresh air and sunlight. And then after you eat your breakfast or whatever, you can go back and make your bed. And the other thing that she recommends is to air out your bedding that you don't wash frequently. So my down comforter and my quilt, I'm not going to wash those super frequently because it's not good for them, and it's really intense process for the comforter at least. But if you air them out in the sunshine, it helps get rid of dust and any kind of microbial life like mold or dust mites. And the reason why I really like it, honestly, is because they smell so fresh and they feel so fresh after they're done airing out in the sunshine. It's almost as good as new sheets. It's so wonderful. In the book, she says that keeping your bedroom clean and dust free and your bedding clean will do more for your health than keeping any other room in your house clean except the kitchen. And I know that that can be really hard because the bedroom is a private room, and so guests don't typically see it. So I know myself and a lot of people, I'm sure, we tend to keep it a little bit messier because we just are like, well, it doesn't really matter, no one's going to see it, I'll deal with it later. But it really is important. It's a health thing, and it's also just so peaceful, and it's like a peaceful retreat when your bedroom is clean and, you know, fresh smelling and all of that. So this book really inspired me to do that. Now I don't do it as often as I probably should. I think back in the day, housekeepers did aired out their bedding outside like every single day or something like that. I don't do that, but I do try and do it periodically on a nice day. So this video was all shot on the same day. I aired out my bedding, and while it was airing out, I washed my delicate clothing. Anything that I make by hand, or anything that's linen or rayon or silk or anything special like that, I will wash, not actually by hand, but I will wash on a delicate cycle in my washing machine. And it works really well for these items. They don't really need to be hand washed, but they really shouldn't be put through the regular normal wash. So I wash them in my washer on the delicate cycle, and then I hang them out to dry, because the dryer also does a lot of wear and tear on clothing, and especially things like rayon and linen, it can really break those fibers down pretty quickly. And since a lot of this stuff is handmade and hand dyed and whatnot, I want it to last for a really long time. And so the other reason is I just enjoy hanging out laundry. So I take the time to hang out my handmade, more delicate items. If it's a really hot season and I don't have a lot of other things I need to do, sometimes I'll hang out other regular laundry just to save money and because I kind of enjoy it. And sometimes it dries faster outside than it does in the dryer, so that's pretty cool. There's also nothing like line-dried bed sheets. They smell so good. So my clothesline and clothes hanging system is not very good. This book that I mentioned, the Home Comforts book, has a whole chapter about line drying, or a whole section. And to do this properly, my laundry line would be a lot cleaner. It's not very clean, and the danger is that the dirt could transfer to your wet clothes. Also, my clothespins, I leave them out here and they get all dirty and they start falling apart because they're wooden ones. So I have a plan that a project I'd like to do someday, where I make one of those clothespin holders that you can hook onto your line and slide it around as you go down the line. And when you're done hanging, you take the clothespins bag inside with you, so they stay all clean and nice and they don't get all weather beaten. But I haven't done that yet. There's too many projects, right? So for the moment, I'm doing my imperfect laundry system where I just hang them out on this clothesline, and for the most part, I'm really happy with it. When you're hanging clothes up, if you hang them in a certain way, you can really minimize wrinkling. Anything that has like a collar or something, I try to really put it into place with my fingers so that it will look nice when it's dry, because I don't really iron any of this stuff. Also, another tip is that you don't want to hang things on points where the garment will stretch out in a weird way and have a little pucker, especially on the shoulders. If you hang shirts by the shoulders, a lot of times they will dry with this little pucker on the shoulders, and that doesn't look good. And it's not good for the fabric. So I usually hang shirts upside down by their hems, and I hang skirts and pants by their waistbands, but you can also hang pants up by the legs, by the cuffs. Sometimes that works better depending on the pants. And for my linen and raw silk dresses, I just drape them over the line because they're so long. And that does make them take longer to dry, but you could also hang them by the hem, or you could hang them on a clothes hanger and then hang them up, I don't know, on a railing or something, and that would work well. In the wintertime, I do hang a lot of this stuff up indoors on my really nice drying rack tower thing that I had in another video where I was drying a bunch of yarn. And anything that goes on a hanger, I will just hang up on the shower curtain rod, and then it's ready to hang up as soon as it's dry. Okay, here's my recipe for homemade laundry detergent. This recipe is easy to make. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to make a whole lot, and last time I did the calculations, it's about half the price of your typical Tide powder detergent. If you're comparing it to a liquid detergent or a more expensive detergent, then it's even cheaper. And the ingredients you'll need are borax, washing soda, not baking soda, but washing soda, and soap. You can get all of these things at Walmart, at least you can in my town. And the soap that I buy is in the laundry aisle, and it's called Fels Naphtha Laundry Soap. You can also use a Castile soap or a homemade soap Just a basic soap, not something with a lot of like extra like goat milk or anything fancy like that. You just want basic soap, and pretty much any kind of soap will do as far as I understand. You just need soap to get that degreasing action in your laundry. The washing soda that I get, it usually comes in a bright yellow box that you'll see later, and the borax comes in this white box, and they're both about like $5 or $6 each. So you start by grating 1 bar of soap, or really you need roughly 1 cup of grated soap or soap flakes. You can actually just buy a box of soap flakes if you can find it. I was grating this on the big grating side, but I actually regretted this later. I recommend doing it on this smaller grater side, like the flip side that has smaller holes, because that will make the soap dissolve more easily in the water. But, you know, live and learn, even though I've done this a million times. So to kind of help with that, I started trying to crumble my soap flakes, and that worked pretty well. I really want to learn how to make soap, guys. That's like one of those projects that's kind of up sort of at the top of the list for me. I think that it looks so cool. And I read a bunch of Tasha Tudor books recently, and she makes her own soap, and I was like, add it to the list. Need to learn how to make soap. This laundry detergent, by the way, it works well for your basic everyday laundry. I would say it's not super powerful. So if you have really dirty, grimy clothes, you might need something stronger, like Tide or whatever. But for most laundry, this works really well. I do even use it on rags. I use rags a lot for cleaning the bathroom and washcloths and things for washing dishes and wiping counters. So I have a lot of dirty stuff, but it's not like caked in mud or like grease or anything like that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff you might need something stronger. And for stains it does fairly well, but if it's a really dark stain, then I am probably going to opt to use OxiClean, the oxygen powder that you can buy in the laundry aisle. It works really well on getting a lot of different types of stains out if you soak it in an OxiClean water solution. Okay, so I've got my cup of soap flakes. Now I'm going to add 2 cups of borax. Borax is always really clumpy. It's super annoying. So you try and like pour it out and it doesn't come out. So instead of pouring it into the jar, I poured it onto a plate so I could break up the clumps. I believe borax is also a degreaser. I'm not 100% sure. I don't always go into all of the details of the things that I do. Sometimes I do, obviously, with, you know, making textiles from scratch. But for other things, I'm like, oh, okay, I just follow instructions and it works well. I don't always know why. But borax, I know, is important. So with this laundry detergent also, you only need to use about 1 or 2 tablespoons per load. I guess because it's just really concentrated, I'm not sure why, but you don't need to use like a whole big scoop like most laundry detergents. Just 1 or 2 tablespoons is enough. And honestly, I think that's a major benefit because this jar, this half-gallon mason jar, which won't even be totally full at the end, it will do like over 100 loads of laundry. And that's a huge benefit to me because I don't know about you, but I hate lugging around huge jugs or boxes of heavy laundry detergent when I'm shopping or, carrying groceries in from the car. Those things are huge and heavy and bulky, and you have to have a big shelf to put it on. And then when it's gone, you have to dispose of the container. And I just hate it. It's just a dumb little thing, but now I have this nice little cute glass jar instead of a giant thing, and I can reuse the jar. And the packaging for the ingredients are just these 2 little boxes. They're smaller than cereal boxes, and they will biodegrade really easily. And these boxes are still like over half full. Like, you only need 2 cups of each. Sorry, I forgot to say. 2 cups of borax and then 2 cups of washing soda. That's the recipe. 1 bar of soap or 1 cup of soap flakes, 2 cups of borax, 2 cups of washing soda. And then you shake it up. And I've still got plenty of borax and washing soda. So this recipe is very low waste. You don't have to deal with the huge heavy jugs or boxes of detergent, and it's at least half the cost of your typical detergent. So it's really great. I will have the recipe in the description, and let me know if you try it out and what you think. So a few hours later, the laundry is dry, and I am going to take it down. I try to kind of loosely fold things, especially the pants, because then I don't even have to fold them later. The skirts and dresses I'm going to hang up, but anyway, one of the things in the Home Comforts book that was really interesting is the introduction. It's just a fascinating essay about housekeeping and why it's important, and a lot of other interesting things. The author talks about how she had 2 grandmothers, and one of them was of Italian heritage and the other was from an English, Irish, Scottish heritage. They lived in Pennsylvania. And the Irish grandmother, or not Irish, the Italian grandmother, her house was light-filled, airy. She aired her bedding. She knit in the European style. I forget what it's called. And she cooked things a certain way. And she just thought that the other grandmother's methods were absolute trash. And the other grandma from the English, Scottish, Irish heritage, her house was dark and cozy. There were lots of quilts and bedding and pillows and things. It says she loved ironing and thought it was like the most queenly of household tasks, whereas the Italian grandmother would just send her laundry out. And anyway, it's really interesting, and the point of it all is that they both had very specific ideas of what a good housekeeper does that were completely different. And the author's observation is, what she says here is that the way you experience life in your home is determined by how you do your housekeeping. Just to interrupt myself, it's the end of the day almost, the sun's going down, so I brought in my bedding. It doesn't really need to take that long, just an hour or 2 will give it that fresh smell and feeling. So I've got my feather duvet and I'm shaking the corners because you gotta redistribute those feathers. They tend to kind of gather in the corners and edges. And I'm gonna put my duvet cover on, which I did wash in the washing machine. So if you wash your duvet regularly and you air out the comforter in the sun, then you don't need to wash the comforter so often. So duvets are really nice. And housekeeping has so much meaning. It's basically how you experience life, at least life in your home. And the whole point of a home is that you feel at home in your home, right? You feel free to do what you want to do and be who you are, and it gives you this sense of well-being. And if you don't have enough of this sense of well-being, your happiness, resilience, energy, humor, and courage will decrease, she says. This other quote says, housekeeping creates cleanliness, order, regularity, beauty, the conditions for health and safety, and a good place to do and feel all the things you wish and need to do and feel in your home. It's your housekeeping that makes your home alive. This turns it into a small society in its own right, a vital place with its own ways and rhythms, the place where you can be more yourself than you can be anywhere else. And it's just page after page of this long essay about housekeeping and how meaningful it is to your sense of well-being, your sense of being free to be yourself, your sense of safety and happiness, your health. And again, I'm not a perfect housekeeper. I've got piles of clutter, I've got dog hair, tumbleweeds, I've got smudges on my walls, but I do find this book very inspiring, and with a word of caution that this book is very thorough, and if you're the kind of person who will read a book like this and feel just utterly overwhelmed and incompetent, maybe don't read it. Maybe just stick to some lighter housekeeping reading, or more like, this book is like an encyclopedia basically. It's very thorough, and I do not do probably 90% of the things in this book, but I do find the introduction really inspiring, and I just read through things occasionally and pick up a thing or two, a chore or task that I think sounds like something I'd like to do, like airing out my bedding. I picked that up from reading this book, and it really has made my life more pleasant when I remember to do it. Shout out to this quilt here. I absolutely love quilts, so I could never just be a duvet person. I've got to have a quilt on display on all of my beds in my house, and in a lot of other places too. This quilt was made for me and my husband for a wedding gift by a friend, a family friend, a church friend. She taught me in Sunday school growing up, and her name is Viola Walters. And I love this quilt. It's some of my favorite colors, pinks and purples and blues. I've got a lot of other quilts too that I switch out, but this is the one I'm using now. I hope this video was inspiring to you and not like, oh great, now I have another chore I need to do. I just hope that you're inspired to make your home a place where you and all of those that you love can really feel that sense of well-being and belonging at home.